Welcome to the Temple of Flame. On today, Faithful Acolytes, we take a look at this. Today's product comes courtesy of Roger Damps of Burn Your Tongue, the favorite emporium for all things delectably hot, with actual real live physical locations along the Wasatch Front in Utah. If you're like me, when you're looking for a sauce slinger, you want selection. And with well over 800 varieties, you're sure to find it at Burn Your Tongue. You can also check out Burn Your Tongue on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Burn Your Tongue online. Roger is one of the true aces in the chili head world, and we raise our flame in salute. Now, let us return to the ceremony. And what this is from Tonguespank, it is the apple smoked chipotle rub. And 1 tablespoon per pound, ribs, pork, and chicken. And then set overnight. So we're not doing that. I'm not doing an overnight rub. I will probably at some point in the future, but not for this video. I'll show you what we're doing. So we've got granulated honey, smoked applewood, sea salt, paprika, garlic, onion. Both of those are powder, it would seem. Chipotle powder, black pepper, and chipotle flakes. And we do have a little bit of clumping here. So it's kind of interesting to me that they're using granulated honey here. And so most of the time I don't. Let's get a look at it. Ooh, not that much. Let's get a, you know what, that's fine here. Here, I'll just do this. I'm not going to take a spoonful of all of this, but I did want to show you a close up with the white point. You can see it obviously pretty clearly through the glass here as well though. So, but, so the idea of using granulated honey, I think, is kind of an interesting one. I don't buy, and I think a lot of people are like this as well, but I don't buy a lot of rubs. You know, the pre-combined rubs, because I devised my own recipe that I like a lot. So I don't necessarily want to get away from that. You know, I developed that flavor over the course of many years, and I'm sure a lot of these guys have as well. But it's always interesting to me to try some of this stuff out every once in a while. And this one has a lot of, I think, really interesting elements in it. Most of the time with rubs, you see a lot of brown sugar, because with that molasses, you'll get a depth of flavor. Obviously, honey is not going to have a lot of that. So I'm really curious to see what this does. You do need a sugar to a degree in your rub, because you are going to want to get some caramelization generally with that. But all right, I'm going to try this little bit here and just kind of see how the powder is. I just want to get a feel for what we're dealing with here. Both the smoked salt and the chipotle read through fairly strongly here. Probably the two main flavors. little hints of pepper, little hints of very subtly the garlic and onion. Paprika is not going to add much to flavor comparatively, but the honey also too. So honey is very, very subtle. Generally, honey generally is a very subtle flavor. There's no way it's standing up to this at all, and it just isn't particularly prominent here. There's not a lot of sweetness to this either. Crystallized granulated honey is interesting. Just an interesting idea. So why don't you meet me over at the stove and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so what we have here is chicken thighs that you can see there's some of the stuff already on the sheet right there. I've already done the backside of these. And what we're going to do is just this. Now with the rub, the idea is to work it into the meat, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, we're just going to use this as, we're just going to coat it basically. And all these are is just thighs where I've removed the skin. A lot of people like to leave the skin on, but for grilling, I don't, because I think it always interferes with the cooking of the meat, honestly. And one of the reasons I like thighs on the grill so much is because the thighs have enough fat in them that they're generally just always going to stay juicy. Now, you could work this into the meat. I'm not going to, but you could. And you could let this sit in the fridge overnight like this, which I'm also not going to. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit for probably another half an hour or so. It's still a bit chilled, so I want to bring it up to a little bit of temperature, and then we're just going to go grill it on a nice low and slow sort of vibe. And then we'll come back after it's all said and done and show you what the results are. Okay, we are back with the nicely done up chicken. And let's take a little shot here of what we got going on. It did, you can see it caramelized pretty nicely. This section here was where a bunch of the fat was. Even though it got a little crispy there from the fat running off that end, this is actually still really good. It doesn't taste burnt. It has that really nice sort of sweetness to it from the honey. What wound up getting left was a lot of sweetness here. Which is interesting because when I had the spoonful, I didn't find that to be particularly sweet. Or sweet at all, honestly. The flavor is pretty subtle. I do think letting it go overnight which is generally what I do if I'm doing a rub. I'll coat it. I'll put a nice crust on it. This one I didn't go really thick enough to get a crust per se, but anyway. With the rub, I will usually rub it in. Get a nice crust on it. Cover the whole thing completely in tin foil. And throw it in the fridge overnight. And then I'll bring the tin foil out. The whole thing. I'll let it sit maybe an hour or two. Bring it closer up to room temperature. And when I was doing charcoal, then I would cook it most of the way in the oven first. Sometimes it would be a lot more involved. So let me back up. If I was doing ribs, I would put my rub on, throw it in, I completely, put the rub on, do the tinfoil thing like I said. I let it sit in the fridge a day, full day. Then, the next day, so I guess now, basically a full 24 hours. So, if I put it in at 6, then I would bring it back out at 6 and throw it in the oven. I want to say use something really low, like 200 degrees or something like that. And I'd let it go for, I would time it so that it was cooking for, probably about 8 hours or so. And then I would finish it on the grill. So about half an hour on the grill with a bunch of wood smoke and maybe a little bit of mop sauce. All right, that was good. So if you happen to use this in conjunction with a smoker, I think you'd be better off. All I have right now is a gas grill. I think it was really interesting because most of what it did was to make, it was almost like a sweet glaze, I guess, is how it came out. It doesn't taste particularly honey. It does taste sweet, but there's a lot of other stuff in there that is kind of overtroddening the honey flavor. But it's a nice bit of sweetness, caramelized pretty nicely, and flavor-wise, it's really, really good. But it is lighter. There's not anywhere near the smoke flavor I was thinking there would be. I think you'd be better off with an actual smoker than a gas grill, to be sure. But to me, sometimes rubs are strong enough and they taste so good that they're, if I go to a restaurant and they have a really good rub, I won't order any sauce to go with it. This one, there's not really, you saw how I prepared it. You saw how much we used. There's not really a super density of flavor there. I do actually want to try this though, crusting like a pork loin or something,
and then grilling that. I think that would work out pretty well. So I'm gonna try that. That'll be the next thing I try with this. And I am thinking about getting some chicken breasts and just pounding it flat and then just working this in. I think that would work really well too. So I got plans for the rest of this. Certainly there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know. I think this is one of their newer products. I don't know what it goes for. But definitely, like, you could do way worse than to pick this up. I think for me, I like it. It's not better than my rub. I will say that. But again, mine is keyed to my own preferences developed over a whole bunch of time. What is going to be better than my rub for me, right? I like much denser flavors, and I think as meat cooks, you can sort of have a slewing off effect a bit. You know, even though I coated, I mean, I covered the entire chickens. So I'm going to try working this in more. I'm going to try pork with this next. And I will try probably those pounded flat chicken breasts after that. If you're interested, depending on how they come out, I may put them up. I may put photos of those up in the community section here on the youtubes.com. If you want to check any of that out. Occasionally when I make stuff, I'll put pictures up there. I don't want to be too repetitive with it. And also I have a blog that has a lot of content on it as well. So I don't want to be too much of a good thing. You know, I'm trying to avoid that. But you can check there. And if I like how it turns out, I could see where this would be a really nice sort of glazed, infused sort of chicken breast. I think that would work really, really nicely, pounded flat. And then try to get the Maillard effect over the whole thing. I think that'd be pretty slick. I do have a ghost pepper jelly that I'm debating adding this in with as well. So there's lots of different things that I could play around with and experiment with, and I probably will. I mean, I used about a third of the bottle doing this, so we definitely have some room to play around with it. But I think what they did is super good. Like, it's really nice what they did here. I have no complaints about this. I think, you know, if I was more into rubs, I would probably be a lot more interested in this. Just the granulated honey thing really, really intrigued me. But again, some things I just like to make myself, I guess, at the end of the day. And I know a lot of people commercially like to make rubs and get them out there. And, you know, more power to everybody. I think this is a good product, no question about that. It just, I guess, isn't one that I guess for me holds a whole ton of value, but I do like what they came up with here. It is quite tasty. Heat is not really there. This is not meant to be a hot product, I don't think. The Chipotle is not forward enough. It's there mainly as a flavor component, I think, more than anything. So it definitely, if you're looking more for a flavor first perspective, this would be a good pickup. And especially if you're new to rubs. So if you're new to rubs, this would be actually a really good thing to pick up, because rather than you just experimenting with stuff, one of the easier things to do is to go buy commercial rubs and find one that is closer to what you want. And then you can trying to tweak and finesse and all that other stuff like I did. I like experimenting with food though, so but if you want something straight out of the gate, that's really good. This is, yeah, I mean, this I think is a really good solid product for that. So if that's kind of where you're at on things, pick some up. But anyway, we're gonna leave it right there. That was the Tonguespank Applewood smoked Chipotle rub. Number 4, in peace, to serve the flame.